Hello, and welcome to another Sandia Mountain Natural History Center quick trip. Today, we're at the Whitfield Wildlife Conservation Area, which is owned and operated by the Valencia Soil and Water Conservation District. For the past 10 or 15 years, the Soil and Water Conservation District and the New Mexico Museum of Natural History have been providing fifth graders with all kinds of nature programs down here. And this year, we're especially happy to announce that the Los Lunas Data Center, which holds all your Facebook information, I don't know about all of it, but holds a lot of your Facebook information, is actually also helping us fund the effort to get kids outside and enjoy the outdoors. Let's go see what we can find. Since the late 1990s, the Valencia Soil and Water Conservation District has owned Whitfield Wildlife Conservation Area. But what you see here is not how it looked just a few short years ago. In the early 1940s and 50s, this was actually a fruit orchard. And you can understand why that would be, because of the water table. Those trees were getting a lot of water. And then in the 1960s, it became a dairy farm, and was a dairy farm until the 1980s. So all this regrowth that you see has really taken place just since the 1980s. And the Conservation District has done an unbelievable job in restoring this area to what it once was, and that work continues to this day. This pretty tree has a pretty ugly reputation because this is a salt cedar, and salt cedars are an invasive species. They were brought in from the Middle East as ornamental plants and as windbreaks, and they've really taken over. They can suck up hundreds of gallons of water a day, which is really bad here in the Southwest. Here at Whitfield, they left these trees for a while because they were providing habitat for birds. But since the early 2000s, they've planted over 6,000 other trees. So now it's time, in the next couple months, they'll be coming in here and eradicating these non-native trees. Trees like the salt cedar, the Russian olive, and the Siberian elm.
Behind me is a pond here at Whitfield that is filling up slowly from groundwater. This attracts all sorts of animals, such as wildfowl that are migrating, or even around the perimeter we have a lot of prairie dog holes. And other animals that could come in from that would be coyotes, owls, great horned owls, and foxes.
So this is a screw bean mesquite tree. Birds love this tree because of all the thorns on it. So they can land in this tree and be safe from predator. The interesting thing, and the reason it's called the screw bean mesquite, is because of these interesting seeds. These screw beans, birds will eat these, but they have to go through a bird's digestive system or some other animal's digestive system in order to grow somewhere else. It's called scarification. And the coating and all on the outside has to be digested in order to be planted somewhere else. So this area here is one of the largest remaining saltgrass prairies along the entire Rio Grande River. There was a time where the Rio Grande would flood its banks every spring, and that was really critical to plants like this saltgrass and cottonwoods and other plants. But now that we've controlled the river with dams and dikes, and we have a lot more development along the river, areas like this are going away. But here at Whitfield, they're trying to preserve and restore these areas. That's why we have these slash piles of brush that was cleared out of the prairie to provide habitat for not just the grass, but for the cranes and other birds that like to land here during their north and south migration. So these are cattails. A lot of people would understand that these are a very common plant along marshy and wet areas. But what a lot of people don't realize is that people that were living here thousands of years ago would make these into a food. They somehow ground these up and made them into a food. They also make a really good nesting material. They're also, in a survival situation, really good fire starter. And it's really fun to watch how it just explodes off of there and blows around. So it's also an interesting way to think about seed dispersal, which obviously wind disperses these seeds.
So here we have one of our largest rodents. This is a porcupine. Porcupines are actually nocturnal, but they like to sun themselves on the edge of forests. And that's exactly what we have here, a porcupine sunning itself on the edge of a field. So they eat the cambium layer of trees and are pretty hard to kill, but there are predators out here for them, things like coyotes and mountain lions. And what those animals will do to avoid the quills is go for the soft underbelly. So that's how they attack a porcupine. So that's a pretty cool find. We don't see a lot of animals here at Whitfield. They're pretty solitary, but we found a porcupine today.
So one of the problems that people see with porcupines is they can do a lot of damage to the trees. But in an ecosystem, everything plays a role and everything is important. So you might be thinking, well, what are the porcupines doing? And what they're doing is they are selectively pruning trees. And by pruning those trees, they're opening up the forest, allowing more light in, and promoting biodiversity. So while some people might not like to see the trees die, they're actually doing something good for the ecosystem.
Okay, we found something really cool today, and it's a skull. So let's take a look at it and see what it is. We can see that some of the sharp teeth here, which means a good chance that it's either a carnivore or an omnivore. But if I turn the skull over and I look right in here, we see a U. If this was a carnivore, it would have something called a satchel crest. Even some omnivores like bears and coyotes have the satchel crest that goes down the middle of the skull. So what we have right here is a gray fox. One cool fact about the gray fox, they like to climb trees. They're very good climbers.
Well, you know our videos are not complete without a little bit of coyote scat. So here you go.
So like most of New Mexico, water is super important here at Whitfield. And they have a whole series of these wells to monitor the depth of the aquifer. And we're going to help them out today by measuring it. We're going to use this water level meter and we're going to measure. So when I hear the beep, I'll know that I've hit water. So that is at 6.7, and then I have to take off the 1.7 of the post. So that tells us that the water is just 5 feet underground here at this well. That's pretty incredible. The other thing that we're going to do is take a water sample. Now when I stick this dipper in, it's going to take a sample of water out. I want you to be thinking about, is that water going to be clear or is it going to be muddy? What do you think? What are your guesses? And if we look, hopefully you can see that, but that is clear water. If we wanted to, we could drink that water.
This cottonwood behind us that we see is coming to the ends of its life. It's about 100 years old. Last July 6th, we saw during the monsoon that 2 of the tree branches have broken off. This makes a great perch for great horned owls. Great horned owls' diet consists mainly 90% of mammals, such as mice and rabbit. And also 10% of that was going to be waterfowl, such as coots and duck, which would be around in this area. The interesting fact about owls is they don't drink water.